Hello, everybody, and welcome to Eden Fractal. We're here for our 118th event, I believe, and I have the pleasure to be here with Tadas and Rosmari and Zal and Will. We've been talking about hiking and traveling and all sorts of cool stuff. If anyone wants to say hello, then of course feel free. Thanks everybody for joining us both here at the event and watching the video. I'm going to give a presentation about Eden Fractal and the exciting agenda that we have on the agenda for today, to be a bit repetitive. Exciting agenda that we have on deck. Maybe that would have been a better way to say it. All right, so now we are exploring transformative plans to fulfill our vision for Epoch 2 and also new funding mechanisms too. So we're at a point here where we've been meeting with Eden Factor for almost 3 years now. And we're having our season finale come up in the next event. This is our second and last event of the season. And basically, a lot of what we've been doing has been really building up to this moment for the past year and past few years. So I made a few proposals here. Rosemary put together a beautiful cosmic captain's image here that I really love. And so we'll discuss proposals and next steps for Epoch 2 and so forth. I'll also provide a little bit of an overview for anybody who's missing on the context about what Epoch 2 is and what Eden Fractal is as well. So I hope that everybody will enjoy and stay tuned. If you're not familiar with Eden Fractal, check out edenfractal.com. Eden Fractal is a community dedicated to optimizing collective decision-making through collaborative research, development, education, gamification, and community engagement. And since 2021, the Eden community has been pioneering ways to coordinate that are fair, fast, and fun. And we host biweekly events that bring together governance leaders and builders to explore better coordination systems. And everybody's welcome to join these. So you can see our vision and learn more about how we make the best tools and methods available to make the best decision-making possible for all communities and organizations around the world, and our mission to implement fractal decision-making processes at society. Fractal decision-making processes being processes similar to how plants branch into fractal patterns to maximize their growth and resilience. Fractal decision-making processes help community coordinate effectively at any scale by breaking large groups into smaller interactive groups where we can make decisions better. And we do this with Respect Game and several other kinds of cool games and software and tools. So everyone's welcome to learn about these by joining our bi-weekly events and network with other builders in the community and learn about ways to empower your community with these fractal decision-making processes and create a better future for all, frankly. And we have over 115 amazing videos that we've done over the past few years where you can watch and learn, and you can also join the videos too, because every one of our events is recorded and published on YouTube by Eden creators. And several community members are building tools for abundance, building open source tools to help people cooperate with fractal decision-making processes, pro-social games like the Respect Game. So you can learn more about that on edenfractal.com, as well as explore how you can get involved with the events and our group and so forth. Encourage you to check it out and encourage you to RSVP and invite friends to Eden Fractal events on every other Thursday on 17 UTC. This is on the Optimistics event calendar where you're welcome to register and give email reminders. And there you can also find the other events that the Optimistics organize, Optimism Fractal and Optimism Town Hall, which happen on every other Thursday, alternating with Eden Fractal as well. So as I said, all the videos are published. You can find that on edenfractal.com/videos. Last week, we had an excellent discussion about fractal governance architecture with tripartite governance and how it can transform capital allocation with fractal decision-making processes and fractal democracy. So we explored the Respect Game, the Sages Council, and ORDAO, and how it's implemented in Optimism Fractal to create, well, to be in specifically a research project showing how it can create truly democratic fund distribution and decentralized coordination at scale. We've also been discussing AI-powered tools for governance and all sorts of other stuff over the past weeks and months and years. So I encourage you to check out the videos. First, we also put together some really nice show notes with a summary of the most recent episode. And of course, you can always find timestamps and links in the YouTube description. So that's all there. And you can register or subscribe to the Eden Creators YouTube channel to see all the videos from Eden Fractal, as well as Optimism Fractal and the other events and shows that Eden Creators produces for. It's a great resource. And there's also the Eden Fractal blog where you can read about it too and learn more about these fractal decision-making processes, such as the Respect Game. And also use our tools to explore the Optimistics Toolkit, where you can try out the Respect Games app and Fractogram and ORDAO software and so forth. Lots of resources where you can learn how you can empower your community. I'm going to give a quick community news section here just to give some people updates. So I mentioned how this event we're going to be talking about our upcoming Epoch 2, which we've been talking about, and the season ending for Eden Fractal. The season is also ending for Optimism Fractal and Optimism Town Hall in next week on April 3rd, and we discussed that in detail, as well as some plans for implementing participant agreements and seasonal scheduling and break durations in the last Optimism Town Hall event called Seasonal Rhythms, or Optimism Fractal Seasonal Rhythms. So I encourage you to check out this video to learn more about what's up for Optimism Fractal and Optimism Town Hall. I think we're probably taking a 2 event break from both Eden Fractal and Optimism Fractal and Town Hall, but stay tuned for proposals and chats and so forth in the Discord for Optimism Fractal, and check out the video to learn more. And we appreciate any feedback and thoughts about that as we figure out our plans for the next seasons. Also wanted to give a shout out and thanks to Tadas. He made some great progress over the past week or two. Today, he deployed the Optimism Fractal respect distribution on base, which allows the Optimism Fractal community to do actions on base in addition to the OP mainnet. You can learn more in the Optimism Fractal Discord. Very exciting. And Tadas also last week set up a donation address using splits to where people can claim donations given to the Optimism Fractal community. And he tested it by sending and distributing $20 to everybody who participated basically in seasons 1 through 4. And you can now go to claim that by going to app.splits.org. If you just go to splits.org too, you can find out more about like what it actually is, the software that this uses, financial infrastructure for on-chain teams. So really cool stuff. Thanks to Das for leading this way, and really excited to see. And donations can now be sent there for anybody who'd like to support the Optimism Fractal community. Also want to let everybody know that we recently put out a message for the Eden Fractal episode exploring AI-powered governance with dialectic tooling, and thank Dilexy team for joining us and sharing the tools that they've been building for all this, and encourage people to watch the videos to learn more. It was really interesting, and you can like and repost and follow and so forth at the Eden Careers YouTube channel to find that. And also check out the most recent Optimism Town Hall video that's been published, other than the one I showed before about lobby finance, which was also really interesting too. So those are some videos that were published in the past like, couple weeks since the last one that I wanted to show. But now I'm wondering, well, Rosmari's wondering if you're ready to revolutionize public goods funding. So we'll get on to the agenda of the day to explore transformative governance models and sustainable ecosystem development through fractal decision-making processes. Also shout out to Zal too. Zal put out the Year of the Zal, day 86 for Eden Fractal Epoch 2, where we're riding the wave of bold innovation as we attend the groundbreaking Eden Fractal event. And today's journey is all about getting involved and actualizing our vision. So I encourage you to check out Zal's post on Paragraph here and all the great work he does with the Zal and Year of the Zal work that he does in the Zal newsletter. And with that, I see Zal said he's ready. Great to see. With that, to kick off the agenda with what we'll discuss, I put out a post this week in Telegram and on the Fractally Mighty Network, fulfilling the vision of Eden Fractal Epoch 2, where I kind of gave an update on some of these different things, like how we're at a pivotal moment after 3 years of building, and now this is the second to last event of the season, and we'll take a 2 event break and return after our last event of the season on April 10th. We'll return on May 22nd for our 120th event, which will be just before our 3-year anniversary, which occurs on June 8th. So I think this creates the perfect opportunity to officially launch Eden Fractal Epoch 2, which is the vision that we've been working on for just about a year now. I originally introduced it in a post, and now we did a few videos about it, and there's an article about it. And for this upcoming meeting, or for today's meeting, I shared 2 draft articles. One is, and these are pretty early drafts. Doss shared a lot of really great feedback on them, so they'll be updated for sure after today's conversation. But plans to officially launch Eden Fractal Epoch 2, including deployment of ORDAO, the smart contract infrastructure for our fractal decision-making process that we're using that Tadas has built on base, implementation of the respect game with a focused game prompt, and establishment of a democratic legislative consensus process. And the second proposal is some ideas, early introduction to a Fractal Fellowship and Fractal Development Fund, with ideas about pioneering mechanisms to allocate resources to outstanding contributors to grow the fractal ecosystem. So yeah, I'm very curious to hear everybody's feedback on these proposals. And of course, we can always discuss other things related to fractal ecosystem too. So feel free to raise your hand throughout the meeting and share questions or thoughts in general. But would love to get into these. For a bit of context, as I mentioned, we've been discussing Eden Fractal Epoch 2 for almost a year. I shared this post in July 2nd, 2024, and then we discussed it. And basically, with Eden Fractal Epoch 2, you can see this article here. There's 3 videos that we did about it back about over 4 months ago or so after that, maybe 5 months ago, maybe a year ago. Over the past year, we've done these. And then I had proposed that we switch to a bi-weekly event schedule, which we've done. But two things we haven't yet done yet is start playing respec games again in Eden Fractal and bootstrap slash reboot our consensus process. So that's kind of what I'm proposing here. You can view the whole Epoch 2 proposal, but basically it's fulfilling this vision to be able to also achieve our broader vision of implementing these fractal decision-making processes throughout society. So all communities and organizations have the tools and methods to make the best decisions possible. There's a lot of research documents that we've worked on this and a lot of discussions we've had over the past year that's carried in the Eden Fractal community Notion site. And this is also kind of building off of what we discussed at the last event, which is the Optimism Vector Respect Game research into democratic fund distribution. And there's, videos that we've done about this with lots more details. And there's also the post that we discussed in the last event about democratic fund distribution through the respect game for the governance integration strategy. So I'm kind of suggesting that we build in this kind of model here with these two draft proposals. But when we will get to that, it's all built on fractal democracy. So the two draft proposals here, one is about just kind of more general rationale at Epoch 2. You can see some things that Tadas shared here. And I'm proposing basically that we, one, do actually deploy ORDAO on base over the coming weeks, and then we start playing the respect game with a targeted prompt for what did you do to grow the fractal ecosystem. So everybody who joins would share what they did to help the fractal ecosystem and earn respect based on that, and then establish a what I call Eden Fractal Captain's Council. It could be called something different, as Josh suggested, but basically a democratic consensus process to serve a legislative role. And I had said to do it with the Optimism Fractal Council, but Das also mentioned Eden plus Fractal, another consensus process that we've utilized, Das created a couple years ago, could be a better fit too. So Das and I agree that these are probably the two main priorities to discuss today about the playing the respect game or how we'll actually organize our meetings after when we return from the break, and also what our legislative consensus process will be. So there's more details here. I came up with a new idea for core intents, but maybe we can get into that later. It's about helping community members become more independent, maximizing independence. And then the second proposal I made is about introducing a funding mechanism and an idea for a Fractal Development Fund, where I'm planning to commit an initial $1,000 to seed this fund and then test out a method or a mechanism to distribute the funding that's based in the principles that was in that research document. And I shared a first early draft idea, and then Stas and I went back and forth, and we had a lot of discussion here already. So this can provide some inspiration for where we're at right now with or provide some inspiration for the meeting today, and we can go over some of this and most recent ideas and stuff. Thanks so much, Stas, for all the great ideas and feedback here. But just wanted to provide a bit of context for what's been discussed so far. So basically, that's that. I think those are the two priorities, although we can go in a different direction. I'm just curious to hear everybody's thoughts in general. And then I put together some options for the legislative consensus process, as well as the event structures, and also put up some things that we could discuss in the future after that. And I put together some folders for these pages where I can go through and share more details with the options for the event structures and for the consensus process. And maybe to start, I can just stop talking here, and then we can see if anybody has any general feedback for all this stuff I shared about Epoch 2. I know there's a lot of information and the upcoming break, and any first thoughts on the draft proposals. And then if we want, we can decide to dive deeper into perhaps these two priorities that Tadas and I found important after that. So thanks again for everybody being here. Thanks for everybody listening. I know, Will, thanks for the feedbacks. I know it was a nice pace. Hopefully it didn't take too long, but hopefully everybody enjoyed it. And yeah, basically, thanks, Rosmari, also for sharing that message and welcome time. Thanks for joining us. Hope that you're having a great day. And I see Will said, let's discuss the two proposals. So, yeah, we could discuss the two proposals. If you want, I can go more into it, or if you want, we can go into the two priorities. But yeah, maybe first I'll just stop talking for a few moments and see if anybody wants to say anything out loud. I don't know if Josh, you want to. I know you've thought about this a lot over the past couple of days, so if you want to share your thoughts right from the top, or if anybody else wants to share thoughts, and then my suggestion would be. After we have any, first thoughts or feedback, then probably discussing these two priorities, determining the structure and biweekly events and the consensus process would probably be the best idea, because there's these two proposals, and I think that the second proposal for the Fractal Fellowship and Development Fund, it really depends on the first proposals. And I was kind of putting out there to put out a vision for what we could do, because it's helpful to take in context what we could do with it. But in order for the second proposal to work, we'd have to form some sort of consensus about the first proposal, and those two priorities are kind of like foundational to that. And then if it would be helpful, I did create these other um, folders up at the top here where I gave details about like the different consensus process we can use. Like I mentioned the Eden plus Fractal one, so I can show how that works and compare it to the Eden Fractal Council. And then kind of the two ideas for the event structures are either play the respect game or play Cagendas. We could also discuss about that too. So um, yeah, Will says a TLDR would be nice for those on some mobile, and Zal gave a heart. I tried to just give a TLDR, but maybe I missed out some key details. So, and I can provide a TLDR on, like the different consensus processes, like the Eden plus Fractal Plus and stuff like that. But maybe if you want to just give me a bit more guidance, Will, on what aspect, like the proposal itself or the consensus process or the different ideas, then I could help maybe provide a better TLDR on the proposals. Okay. But I see Tadas unmuted first. So first we'll pass it to Tadas, and then we can get into a TLDR of the proposals, and I can dive a bit deeper into any aspects I didn't include there. And feel free to, of course, raise your hand throughout or unmute or share any message in the chat if you'd like to dive in deeper to any aspect.
Yeah, I think it makes sense to focus on the consensus process uh, first, because then these proposals will uh, basically it will create the right context for to discuss other proposals, because we will have a means to make decisions as a group, and I think it will be easier.
Yep, that sounds good with me. So yeah, just to provide a little bit of okay, Will said he can't talk today, limited chat only. Sounds good. Appreciate you sharing your thoughts in the chat. So maybe just to provide a bit more context on the proposals, just to help with Will and Zal, just in case they're curious about it, because I did kind of like fly through it, but I can go a bit more in detail. So basically, the first proposal is exactly that. It's the proposal to start playing the respect game with the focus prompt, which is what do you do to grow the fractal ecosystem, and then establish the Eden Fractal Captains Council, which I proposed to work in the same way as the Optimism Fractal Sages Council, where we have a snapshot proposal and or a snapshot for Eden Fractal, where people can vote with respect tokens on different matters. And then basically Eden Fractal would then have a tripartite governance system, just like Optimism Fractal, or similar to it at least, where the respect game would serve as this judicial foundation. And then the ORDAO software will be the executive contract that works on base, and then or rather be the executive branch with the Orec contract that executes transactions on base. And then the Eden Fractals Captain's Council I'm talking about right now would be the legislative process, which I propose works in the same way as Optimism Fractal Sage Council, but with one difference, just that right now Eden Fractal has a respect distribution from its first 75 weeks of people who participate in Eden Fractal. So that's what the ORDAO will be composed of originally. And then the council would be formed by active participants in the new epoch by playing respect games. So that's basically my proposal for this fulfilling Epoch 2 uh, vision. There's also something about core intents, but I didn't really mean for that to be in this proposal. AI kind of threw it in there by accident. So that's basically the first proposal. And then the second proposal, which, as Sadas said, like, and I said too, I think it makes sense more to save this for later, but I can just provide a bit more detail about it. This proposal is basically, okay, say, for example, if we did agree to this proposal, or if we figured out, if basically we agreed to play the respect game to measure contributions to the fractal ecosystem, and then we have some sort of consensus process for the legislative council, and we have ORDAO deployed, and we have the tripartite governance structure, then what do we do with that? And yeah, for this one, I've thought a lot over the past week um, about committing $1,000 to support outstanding contributors to the Fractal ecosystem. And basically, I came with this first idea, which Tadash shared a lot of great feedback. So I don't agree with this idea anymore that I had originally. But the idea was that um, I could distribute this funding, but add some qualifications in there. And I added kind of two qualifications as well as one other idea of how funding could be distributed. So the idea that I came up with was that community members could apply to become Fractal Fellows as part of a Fractal Fellowship program by making like a short application, and then the Eden Fractal Council would review that, and then if they approve it, and then I suppose the ORDAO would make like a transaction to say that they're approved. And then there'd also be a minimum qualification where people must maintain, or fellows must maintain an average respect score of at least 13 for each week, basically, during the season. So they'd have to get like an average of level 3 in order to qualify for funding, as well as be approved by this application process. And then I came up with some different ways that funding would be distributed based on like going to the events and earning respect, and also experimenting with retro polls where people can vote on different contributors and stuff like that. So that's kind of like an overview of the proposal that once we have um, the respect game and ORDAO and the council in place, then we can use that to experiment with this fund distribution system, which I would start by seeding the funding for. Eventually, I think that anybody could contribute to that funding as well, so we could fund the ecosystem a lot more. And then basically we'd have like a couple qualifications and then ways that people could earn funding from, and we would start doing that in Epoch 2 as well. But as you can see on the screen, Tadash shared a lot of great feedback to that, and I have new ideas about how that should work. And I think we're pretty aligned on maybe how it should work now, but we can get into that later. So I don't think this is the best mechanism right now. That's just a draft proposal, but I think that I have a good other mechanism that we can use that's simpler and probably better. But hopefully that I see Will says like proposal 1 already, and that makes more sense now. I agree. Proposal 2 can come later. Okay, sounds great. So yeah, hopefully that was helpful for everybody. And then if anybody else wants to jump in with any thoughts, then feel free. Otherwise, I see Rosemary wrote, "What's that mechanism? What are you asking about, Rosemary? Do you want to unmute maybe?"
Yeah, you said you have new mechanism. What's that?
Um, I'm not sure what you mean. You mean
You
mechanism
said
for
that,
distributing funding?
yeah, based on the discussions that you had with the desk.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so good question. And maybe it's good to mention that briefly. So Tadash shared a lot of feedback that's kind of like it seems like it's too entwined with the funding organization and the fractal and how they should be like more clearly separate. Um, and so I encourage everybody to read all these comments here if you want to get into it, because there's a lot of really important things here. But and it's really more similar to my original research document. So that's kind of outlined it here about separating the parts of design better. So like separating it so it's more clearly the funding organization and how it determines its funding allocation protocol for distributing funds, separating that clearly from the fractal and its internal protocols like the tripartite governance and a communication signal between the fractal and funding organization that would work for any fractal organization, regardless of their internal mechanisms, which is basically like very similar to what I wrote in this fund distribution document. If you look at the section here, I wrote system architecture with a community coordination layer, legal compliance layer, and fund distribution layer, like clearly separated. So I was kind of like muddling them together a little bit, but basically it's just to have them each separate. And in that case, rather than the um, like basically the mechanism is rather than requiring an application process and a minimum qualification, my idea about what we should do is just I can just probably just um, commit that $1,000 and other people can donate or whatever, and then we just have it where the Optimism Fractal community entirely decides how to distribute that funding via its consensus process, and there's no other qualifications there. There would be some qualifications, and like that, there need to be some agreements in place as well, just to make sure everybody understands how it works. And like if I have a company that's deploying funds, I need to make sure like I can like I can do it in a compliant way. So there may be KYC processes or something like that necessary. So there's a bit more detail, but basically like the mechanism and the protocol by which it would happen would be, I think, Tadas had mentioned splits could be a good way to do it. But personally, and maybe me and Tadas disagree here, but personally, I think that the best way to do it is just basically let the community decide where to deploy that capital. And it could use the respect game, the council, and the ORDAO. And basically, I, as the funding organization, would just distribute the funding to whatever the ORDAO says, and the council would make recommendations for that. And there'd also be independence, so neither of us have to do that. Like I don't have to necessarily do it, but I just say I'm intending to give funding to whatever accounts that the ORDAO um, basically signals on chain to give that funding to. And if it meets my requirements and I'm fulfilling my intention, then I would give that. And then the council of Eden Fractal could determine if it wants to implement an application process or a minimum qualification, or if it wants to use splits, or if it wants to use some other mechanism. Basically, it's just giving less requirements for my funding organization and letting the community decide. And I would participate in that, and I might propose these things, but it's basically to separate these two roles where is making it so that it's just up to the community to decide if there's an application process or if there's different distributions or qualifications or something like that. Does that make sense? Rosemarie?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
Thank
you're welcome. Thanks for asking. And yeah, curious to hear Tadas say if you think the same thing. I think Tadas might have been leaning more towards just using just the splits, but I saw there was potential in using this mechanism with ORDAO having a bit more flexibility. But I again, this is just what I think after like this is all draft and early ideas. And so um, I see Tadas unmuted. So sorry, Tadas, we got a bit off topic with your plan to get into the consensus process, but it seemed like it might just be helpful just to share some ideas, these ideas first. And also, I think it is helpful to provide some context for, where we might go with it once we have the foundations laid with the consensus process and the respect game. So yeah, Tadas, what do you think?
Yeah, for me, that's what you described as not enough separation because like Fractal would still be signaling funding decisions effectively. And yeah, I think with splits you could have something more elegant and something that separates these organizations more clearly and in a way where Fractal could develop this kind of relationship even with multiple organizations, for example. But I don't know, I would prefer to leave this discussion later and maybe go into consensus processes more today.
Okay, sounds great. And yeah, I'll just note there, I think splits could work. That could be the way that the ORDAO signals whatever it wants to distribute, and ORDAO and the council could just use whatever consensus process it wants to use to create that split. Is one of the ways I'm thinking about it. But also open to other options and very curious to hear your thoughts. So yeah, Will suggested can use open source Sybil defense mechanisms without KYC. That's possible, although if we do have a funding organization, then that organization might have funding requirements. So that's part of the research I'm doing, but it can for sure work with different models. But if you want to have an organization in there, then that might need to comply with any local regulations. And separation is good. That's very important. I agree. And you can also look at the superfluid SQF modeling for fund distribution. Okay, I'll check that out. Thanks for the recommendations and suggestions, Will. And yeah, I don't know if it'd be helpful for me to maybe provide some context about the consensus processes first. I mentioned that I see two different options for this, or maybe there's three different options, but I wrote um, two of them here, being Eden plus fractal and the Optimism fractal council model, and then I wrote something else, question mark, because we have these two good consensus processes that have both been tested, and so that's what I've been considering. And if it'd be helpful, then I could provide a bit of context to say what is the Eden plus fractal council process, because some people here might not be familiar with it. We haven't used it in a while, and I can also share a bit about what is the Optimism fractal council process. But first, I see Tadas raise his hand, so we'll go to Tadas first.
Maybe let's ask uh, how many of you are like know about Eden plus Fractal consensus process, how it works?
I think me.
Yes, you, Rosmari, Dan, me, Will and Zal, I assume you, and Timed, I assume you haven't played it, so I assume you probably don't know it. So I don't know, then maybe it would be worth like I don't know, you need to explain it or just, but
Yeah,
yeah,
I think
you can just do what you plan to do.
okay. Yeah, I think just to maybe fill in Zal or Will and time and anybody else who's watching, maybe it'd be good to briefly go over it. But also, of course, if you prefer to give an overview of it, then you can. I have it up on the screen. I can scroll through for you, and you did create it. So if you want to give an overview, then you can, or if you prefer, I can give an overview. Also, just to briefly respond to Will, he said, understand about compliance jurisdictional, but there are some jurisdictions that are not as strict as regulations. And he also clarified the superfluid is splits plus SQF is next level on-chain capital allocation. So yeah, we can look into that. And yeah, the jurisdictions, we can get into that later. I think that's a deeper discussion. But I am looking at different jurisdictions and figuring out the best way to do that. So it's still kind of an open canvas right now. We're just kind of deciding this is a pretty early draft, but we'd love to do this model as effectively as possible to grow the faculty ecosystem in the next epoch. Tadas, should I go ahead and share a little brief overview here, or did you want to perhaps give an introduction to people?
Just go ahead. Then I
Okay.
will make some comments about about relevant parts right now.
Okay, sounds good. So, yeah, I think everybody's here. Maybe first I'll just say, I think everybody here is familiar with the Optimism Fractal Sages Council. That's what we currently use, Optimism Fractal. And those rules are at Optimism Fractal com/details, where we have the Optimism Fractal snapshot, and people can register for the council each week or after each event. And then those people who register will be able to make decisions in a legislative manner with a 4 to 6 consensus process, which is a signal that the community is expressing its opinion to do different things, basically, and expressing its consensus. So you can learn more about this at optimismfractal.com/council. There's lots of videos about this, and it's an implementation of fractal democracy. We have done like over 50 proposals with this and hundreds of votes and stuff. So I'm going over this quickly just to provide some comparison. In case people who's watching aren't familiar, this is a great consensus process, and you can learn more about it at optimismfractal.com/council. With Eden Fractal, and so that was my proposal to use this at first, but then Tadas brought up some good points about Eden plus Fractal, and I've been thinking about using both of these, and Eden plus Fractal is also a great consensus process that I'm excited to introduce you to for anybody who hasn't heard it. And it's got quite a bit of differences from the Optimal Fractal Council. So it can achieve the same thing as far as a legislative consensus process, but the way it works is quite different. So Tadas wrote a article about this, introducing it October 2nd, 2022, so almost 3 years ago. And then we approved this as our consent as a consensus model for consensus process for Eden Fractal in the 18th meeting, almost 3 years ago of Eden Fractal. We have this all on video, and there's big discussions about it and so forth. And yeah, you can learn more about the breakdown of it and so forth and how it works there. I also did an episode with Tadas, actually, of Creator Talk, a podcast I did where we like dove deeply into like how it works, or actually like just kind of explored it. And so it's really fascinating consensus process. And I think it can grow a lot and provide a lot of really helpful ways for lots of communities to cooperate and stuff like that. So I encourage people to check out edencreators.com/plus to learn both like the background context of it and see how it works. And basically, the reason why it's called Eden plus Fractal is it combines the benefits of something called Eden elections and fractally. So, for anybody who doesn't know, like the broader history of the Eden community, and maybe this is just necessary to just go briefly into this. But before we started playing what we now call the respect game, we had a different fractal decision-making process. And the first fractal decision-making process of the Eden community started in 2021, and these are now called upvote elections or Eden elections, where rather than picking somebody to get like a level 6 or level 5 and like ranking people's contributions at a weekly event, what we did with these Eden elections or upvote elections is we had like quarterly or biannual elections where you'd pick one person to be a delegate, who would basically be a delegate and a representative for the community. And this ran in a community called Eden on EOS for a couple years. This was the first implementation of fractal democracy after Daniel Larimer wrote Mortal Animals, A Subtle Art of True Democracy. And you can see this on the Eden Fractal blog. You could see how it worked basically, where people would join the events and then they would elect a delegate and so forth. And though eventually there'd be like a chief delegate, there'd be multiple rounds. So this Eden plus Fractal process is inspired by this because it kind of combines the respect game that we now call it with this idea of just electing a delegate in each event. And so you can learn more about that in the Eden Fractal blog. But to get back to the Plus article, the Eden Plus Fractal article, Josh wrote this article that explains it very clearly. And basically, the idea was that while we play the respect game, we're also electing a delegate as well to serve as the counselor, basically, and to play this legislative role. So he has 7 steps explained here. Some of these are like maybe a bit outdated, like the breakout room by 15 minutes, but basically we would do it in our same breakout rooms for bi-weekly events. And then after determining rankings for weekly contributions, then the group needs to reach consensus on a delegate to elect, which can be very different from the person who contributed the most. And then delegates from each breakout room together constitute a council for that week, and each council serves for 4 weeks, which means at any point in time, a council has, or a fractal has 4 councils. And people can be reelected in different councils, and the council is said to approve a proposal when at least two-thirds of its members vote to approve it during the hour after the breakout room session. So this is quite different from the Optimism fractal consensus process in that the counselors are approving it during the event actually, and this requires like more time after the respect game. Like perhaps we could reintroduce Eden Town Hall, which is an event where we could do kind of like Optimism Town Hall, where we discuss things like proposals, and then we would actually discuss these things and approve proposals during the event rather than just throughout the week. And then a proposal is passed if at least 3 out of 4 active councils approve it during that hour after the breakout room session. So Tadas shared more details about this and some Discord message which are curious here. And then I think this picture really helps to explain it. In case any of that was confusing, basically you would play the respect game and say week 1 of the new season, and then however many breakout rooms, each one of those breakout rooms would elect a delegate or a counselor. And then all of those, like maybe there's just one breakout room and it's small, and there's just one counselor in that council for that week. Or maybe there's 10 breakout rooms and then there's 10 counselors, and then they would have a 2 out of 3 consensus process in that council. And then that same process repeats at every event that is hosted. And each time that somebody gets elected to be a delegate, they get elected for 4 events, which in our case would be, I suppose, 2 months because we do biweekly. And so by becoming a delegate or a counselor, by accepting that, by I suppose nominating yourself and accepting that, then you'd be becoming a delegate slash counselor for 4 events or 2 months. And then basically you'd have to have 2 out of, or rather 3 out of 4 of the active councils approve a proposal in order for it to be approved, for a proposal to be approved. So hopefully that made sense. I see Zal Fractal, it's super confusing until the graphic well explained. Super interesting. I'm curious to see how it shakes out. I'm also kind of remembering a little bit because it's been a while since we've done that. I see Will said, I like this, was sort of familiar, but not 100% clear. Now it's crystal clear. Okay, great. Thanks, Will and Zal, for the feedback. And yeah, it's pretty simple, but it does take a little bit of education. The video we explained goes over it more in detail, as well as this article, and Tadas's Tadas's like 6.7 point consensus process definition also explains it well too. And so that's like the breakdown of how it works basically. And I don't know, Tadas, you want to add anything onto that?
Yeah, sorry. So, no, like we could compare now, try to compare the council process of Optimism Fractal and Eden plus Fractal. I think those are the main 2 options, right?
I think so, unless we wanted to make up something new or like maybe adjust either one of these to, change them a little bit from how they currently work. But to me, it seems like these are 2 excellent consensus processes, and they each have a unique set of trade-offs and benefits. So, if it'd be helpful, I can go to our chat where we discuss that. Of course, if anybody has any questions or comments along the way, feel free. But Josh,
I think I can summarize like basically my view. Like having experienced both, I kind of have an idea about benefits of each. So yeah, with Eden plus Fractal, it adds an extra decision in every breakout room that you have to make. You have to pick a delegate, and in my experience, most of the time the delegate would simply be with either the first person who volunteers or a person who is not in any of the councils yet. So it would really be some kind of decision that we would put a lot of thought in. And the reason we did not use it for Optimism Fractal is because we did not want to complicate the respect game. We wanted to present as simple as possible version for Optimism community. Yeah, and in that sense, I think maybe Eden plus Fractal complicates things a bit, but yeah, another if we're talking about weaknesses, another would be if we are thinking about using for Eden Fractal going forward. Another thing is that we don't have a front end for it. Like in Eden Fractal first version, we used to signal delegate on chain because front end would allow it, and right now we do not have it yet. So it would require extra work. And another thing is, if we would restart it, we would need 4 meetings until we have 4 councils and can start making decisions. Or at least, I guess, 3 meetings, but still about 2 months until we would be able to exercise decision making through it if we have a bi-weekly meeting. Having said that, I think Eden Fractal has some strengths over Optimism Fractal Council's process. And something I noticed with Optimism Fractal Council process is that proposals can get passed fairly easily. I mean, when comparing to my experiences with Eden plus Fractal, we would discuss each proposal a lot more, and the fact that, yeah, another key thing about Eden plus Fractal process is that decisions would have to be made during the meetings, during the hour after the respect game. And that actually made it created few effects. One is that it made those meetings a lot more engaging, and it made discussions a lot more like productive because there had to be a decision made afterwards. And it also made sure that community was always aware about proposals being passed. And Optimism Fractal Councils do not have that. And actually there was a few times, or at least one time, where proposals got passed and I did not notice, and even thought that we did not discuss that enough in meetings. Yeah, so sometimes like Optimism Fractal Councils can have that effect. Like few people might join a council and then they quickly pass a proposal without the rest of community really noticing. Yeah, and in Eden plus Fractal you don't have that because you can only pass proposals during the meeting. Yeah, so I don't know, maybe the third option would be to modify the Optimism Fractal Council's process in a way where we would add a requirement that votes have to be issued during the hour after the spec game or something like that. So during the meeting, that would be a modification. So I don't know. What do you think? And maybe there are some questions about what I said, or
Yeah, feel free if anybody wants to jump in. I see Will said he's in favor of on-demand proposal voting versus async. I suppose by on-demand he means like in person or like during the call. Um, so yeah, feel free if anyone wants to share more thoughts or questions on real time. Yeah, Will shared. So and then Zal gave it a clap too. So I'm guessing that Zal is in. Zal says agreed. So it does make it more interesting in some ways. It does slow the proposal process because you can only make it during that 1 week, and then sometimes people couldn't make it that week, even if they said that they could be a delegate. Like we would usually ask, okay, do you think you'll be able to make it for the next 4 events? And they'd be like, yes. But then sometimes they still, something came up and they weren't able to make it. And that kind of got in the way of us able to make a proposal. Whereas the Optimism Vector Council is like, it makes it very easy to approve proposals. But there is for sure a trade-off because like there's benefits to having that in like that real-time discussion where everybody's hearing it. Another thing that could be worth mentioning too is if we did decide to go with the council, but like, it seems like maybe everybody here so far is preferring the in real time proposals. But with the Optimism Vector Council, one of the things I've been meaning to do is sync up the snapshot with Discord, and I found a tool that says it can do it, and it might not be so difficult. So that might be one thing that makes it easier to see the proposals in Discord. I also started using Lighthouse, which is an app that one of the guys who joined the Optimism Town Hall event has built, which makes you get notifications. So just making a better notification system for the Optimism Town Hall and for Snapshot, or not for Optimism Town Hall, but for the council could work so people are aware of it. If we do want to still have it asynchronous, but make it so people are aware of the proposals, because they're kind of difficult to see on Snapchat if you don't have some sort of notification system that people see. And then a few other things I could share. So Tadas and I, first off, you could see right here, um, this is the interface that we use. So um, we didn't have a specific app for the delegates. As Sadas said, we were able to post the consensus about who was delegate on chain, but then we manually interface. Yeah, this is a beautiful front end. It's really good top level design. I know. Don't be too stunned. But Sadas built this, and we use this for 55 weeks, and so it was a little bit messy. Like that's one of the benefits, and that's one of the reasons why I proposed in my proposal here to use the Optimism Fractal Sage Council model, because the interface for Snapshot is like much cleaner. It also uses the respect token as well, which is nice. Like we want to promote the respect token, the usage of the respect token, and you can see here, like it just like cast your vote, yes or no. Then you can see who voted, and then if you want to make a proposal, you can see all the proposals in one thing here. It's like a lot cleaner because it has a nice interface that is built. Not as nice as our Google spreadsheet, but still pretty good though. So that's one of the benefits of the council model. And then I think if we go to this over here where we talked about the Eden Fractal Council, I might have shared some other benefits that I saw why I proposed it. So I said user respect tokens, which is a core product we should support. As I mentioned before, the Eden Fractal Council sometimes had voter apathy where somebody didn't join and then we got stuck and we weren't able to approve a proposal. And then the Autism Fractal Council is working well and described in the research document, whereas Eden Plus Fractal would require additional education. But we're already doing that. We already have a pretty good article about it, or a couple of articles and videos about it, stuff like that too. So, but as Sadas said, Eden Fractal can create better discussions and better decisions. And that's the limited to the effect of limiting all decisions to happening in a meeting. If we use the Optimism Fractal Council model, but just made it so you had to do it during meeting, then that could be a way to get the benefits of both. Also, another benefit, I suppose, too, is if we're inviting people to join both Eden Fractal and Optimism Fractal, it could be confusing if we have two totally different consensus processes, and we're like, well, this one has this one with delegates, and this one doesn't. It might be confusing for new people to learn both of those things. At the same time, it could be beneficial to experiment with two different mechanisms as well. So these are just some thoughts here. And yeah, this spreadsheet here, like sometimes, like one of these people or a couple of people wouldn't be available. So I remember that being like a little bit difficult sometimes, but overall it worked pretty well though. And you could see basically we had all the proposals that we passed, like about changing the time and updating the MSIG and me being a moderator. And we had this thing with Planet with Alien Worlds for a while. So we approved like 10 or 12 proposals here. And then you could see each week what people voted for if there was a proposal. A lot of times there weren't proposals, but and I do like how this would like make it more on video and people could discuss the best way to potentially allocate funding or any other decisions. But also one thing that this does require too is that it requires more meeting time if we're to do it. Whether we do the Optimus Fractal Council or the Eden Plus Fractal Council design, then it was designed to have meeting time afterwards. We used to do Eden Fractal for just like several hours, and so we just do a long Eden Fractal meeting. If we wanted to do it with the where you have to make decisions in like basically in real time, then one thing the meetings probably can't be an hour. If we do decide to play the respect game for the first hour, then we'd have to schedule additional time. It might be more like Optimism Practical and Optimism Town Hall, where we have 2 hour event as opposed to a 1 hour event. So this does require more time to do in a synchronous kind of proposal review and approval. And for that, we could potentially launch the Eden Town Hall or relaunch it. This is an event. The website's kind of old and outdated and a bit messy, but I could clean this up. This is a show that we did like 55 episodes for over between 2022 and 2023. I stopped it once we started doing Optimism Town Hall, but would be cool to bring it back. We have a lot of great episodes and we have a pretty good brand here. But to do this, it also requires like a lot of time from like a standpoint of like marketing, promotion, organizing the events and stuff like that too. We could potentially minimize that, but it is like a lot more costly basically to have just well, for everybody to be there for 2 hours, and then if we want to make like a show out of it, then that's a lot of work too. And I don't know, how much energy and time we have for doing an additional show, unless maybe we cut down on the Optimism Town Hall and we did some of this. But I don't know, just throwing out some other considerations here that might be worth considering. At some point, I'd love to do Eden Town Hall too, but we've been holding it off because of basically wanting to conserve resources. I saw Rosmari said, "Why don't we try both of them for half season each?" And Tadas gave a thumbs up. Maybe put a timer to make a decision, or maybe we don't need to record the meetings after spec games. That's potential. I mean, I think if we're discussing d decisions like this, it'd be good for educational purposes to have it recorded. Maybe we don't need to produce it so much, but I would be in favor of recording it. And then a timer, I think that's the idea, where we have like basically an hour to make a decision, or we could say a half hour or something like that too if we want. Um, Speaking of timer, we're only a few minutes from top of the hour, and we haven't discussed the other part of the proposal, which is to play the respect game at at the at the Eden Fractal events too. So I see Tadasra, we need to record it, but we don't need to edit/produce everything. I agree, that's a good point. And then Zal Roberts rules type mentality might work for async, might work well, or for synchronous rather. I'd be interested to look back into Robert's rules. I remember we looked into that and did research, but I don't remember exactly what it is right now. Maybe if you want to refresh us all, or I can pull it up, it'd be helpful. But yeah, I want to be respectful everybody's time. I'm happy to stick around a bit longer though too, because I think this is a valuable discussion. If anybody does need to go to the top of the hour, then feel free to head out, or if you want to say goodbye or anything like that, then feel free to jump in. Otherwise, I'm curious if anybody has any thoughts on what I just shared, or what Rosemary or Tadash just shared, or anything that was shared in the chat there. Thanks everybody for all the comments. That is a good question. Why not try both of them for half a season each? So we could, although I don't know exactly how that would work, and if that'd be confusing or not, or but maybe it's worth doing that. Curious if anybody has any thoughts about this, and also if we do get a chance before the end of today's meeting, I'd love to also talk about this first part of the proposal, which is playing the respect game with a targeted prompt. What do you go to the fractal ecosystem? Previously, we discussed playing Cagendas directly at Eden Fractal, or playing with different prompts. So that's also another thing I'd love to hear any feedback on, if people like this idea of Eden Fractal after the break. And generally, if anybody has any feedback with the whole Epoch too, and coming back after the break and everything like there, I think it's really nice with the synergy with the 3-year anniversary and stuff like that. But would be curious if anybody has any thoughts about Epoch 2 in general, or this target game prompt for what do you do to grow the Fractal ecosystem, or if anybody has any other thoughts about this this consensus process and what we should do there. I see Will wrote he has a meeting with our creative art director on new logo design. We'll look for more discussion in Discord. Sounds good. Thanks, Will, for joining us, and hope that your session goes well. And then Zal, right, might be too much to write down here, but definitely worth checking out. Checking out Robert's rule for topic organization during the event. Okay. Thanks for the tip.
If we were to use the current optimism fractals way, can we set up snapshot so that Eden would be an option to vote with
Yes.
for proposals?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, that would be the idea.
Would that be the new Eden, a new Eden, or would anything be transferred from previous points?
So my proposal, which I haven't thought super thoroughly, but my proposal was to have the ORDAO be composed of all of the respect that was distributed during the first 75 weeks. So that'd be the old respect and the old Eden Practical community, who would have the executive control of the account. And then the legislative control would be entirely of people who are newly participating in Epoch 2. I think it's possible that we could have like some of the old respect weighted in there too. So some of the people who earned respect a while ago also have a role in the consensus process, and that might be more aligned. It might require a bit more work technically as well. But that was my proposal, at least, to have it where it's a little bit of like a balance of power between the people who previously earned respect, who have executive power, and the people who are currently participating, who have legislative power. Um, but I'm happy to go a different way too, and curious to hear if anybody, if you have a different idea, or um, any other suggestions or ideas.
I don't know.
Okay. Well, let us know if you come up with any more ideas there, and thanks for asking. That is a great question, a great thing to discuss. I also pulled up Robert's rules for topic organization during the event as well too. I remember having we have a Notion project about this too, so I don't think I'll go into it right now, but thanks Saul for bringing that up, and yeah, maybe that could help in addition to the idea of Cagendas, because I think if we do want to have a meeting after a respect game, Cagendas is a great process to do it, and then it seems like Robert's rules can provide more structure around Cagendas and perhaps enhance Cagendas. I've only skimmed it so far, but it seems like there's definitely some things to explore here that can be worth integrating. So thanks all for the tip. And Rosemary's said she's going to go in 5 minutes as it's getting late. So okay. Well, we can always wrap it up now if we want to. Curious if anybody has any more thoughts or feedback. Zal says yes, Cagendas reminded him of Robert's rules. So great idea. Okay, very cool. Yeah, I'd love to build out Cagendas more. And also on that note too, with the event structures, maybe I'll get into this a little bit before we potentially wrap it up. I did back on January 1st, I read this article, Growing Together, Strategic Evolution of Fractal Communities, in which I proposed that we implement Cagendas at Eden Fractal. Um, and so I would really love to have like Cagendas and a town hall session and a place to discuss stuff that's specifically related to the Fractal ecosystem. I think this could be really valuable, especially if we have it where there's in like real-time voting. Um, I think that could be really exciting and, you know, a great way to grow the Fractal ecosystem. But I was suggesting doing it directly at Eden Fractal because at that time I didn't have a clear idea about um, why we'd play the respect game and how we'd play the respect game. There were several different articles, like I showed in the Eden Fractal Notion site. Like a bunch of these articles that kind of went back and forth, and both me and other people shared ideas for how we could organize the events in Epoch 2 and kind of just kept going back and forth. But now it seems clear to me, at least with like this in the context of the second proposal, that we could like have some sort of fund distribution system to test this out, and we really want to incentivize great contributions to the Fractal ecosystem and put this process to a test. That this respect game with the targeted prompt for what do you go to to grow the Fractal ecosystem, I think it'd be really good, like prompt basically, similar to how optimism is what you do to grow optimism. This would have a prompt specifically to grow the Fractal ecosystem, and then people could earn respect based on how much they're contributing to Fractal ecosystem, whether that be via tooling or via community engagement or implementing fractal processes or the respect game or whatever it is. And then my thought about the core intents could also help guide that too, about focusing specifically on like respect game, respect token independence, but that's kind of later. But yeah, I'd be very curious to hear if anybody has any ideas about either the consensus process or the idea of doing the respect game with a targeted prompt. I see Tadas, you wrote something there. Did you want to say that or?
Yeah. Dan, do you remember we were talking about Orpolls idea?
Yeah, I remember Orpolls, of course. How could I
Yeah.
forget?
Yeah, so we had some fun with it. If you find a Notion page for it, I would appreciate it. I can't find it, and I tried to, I think, recreate it, but I think I made it differently, maybe better.
Okay, yeah, I'm looking for Orpolls right now. I thought I put it up on the website, but apparently not. So, yep, I found it, I think. Maybe it was
I think
here.
we might have had multiple drafts. You had one, I had something.
Maybe. I remember we were working on it for a while. This is back when we were coming up with the Optimism Fractals Council design, and also a lot of this kind of led to ORDAO. I think we had like a very like a period where we were trying to figure out the consensus process, and then Orpolls was kind of like a first instantiation of it, and then after that we came up with the council, and Stas came up with the ORDAO, and I think that Orpolls is kind of similar to both of them in some ways, but it was like optimistic, respect-based polls. And so I have an article, EdenCreators.com, Orpolls here, and Rosmari shared the Notion site as well, which I think is the same article, it just with comment functionality and stuff like that. Is that what you just wrote in the chat, Tadas? Oh no, you wrote something different in the chat. Okay. Did you want to elaborate on the Orpolls? Also, Zal, to answer your question, Cagendas is built on snapshots, so you can use Cagendas for Zal Fractal as well. Yeah. At some point, I would love to make an on-chain version of Cagendas where you can like earn respect by doing and stuff like that. But right now, Cagendas, it's just set up in the Optimism Town Hall snapshot space. So you could basically do the same exact thing, and it just like kind of making some simple rules you can find that if you go to the Optimum Tunnel snapshot space and you find the rules. Um, so just to answer that, .eth, then if you go to optimumtownhall.com and go to the FAQ, then you can see how it works basically. But it's all entirely on Snapshot right now. Okay, yeah, you could probably say the same thing up in Chambers too. I agree. Okay, Tadas, do you want to elaborate more on your idea with Orpolls? Because I'm wondering why you brought it up here and I haven't yet had a chance to read your message, but I'll read it now.
Yeah, so I started thinking of how to like avoid how to get the best of both worlds, to not like constrain ourselves to a meeting schedule where we have to meet, like have longer meetings and while still being able to pass decisions. And it seems to me like Orec mechanism is like good for that. Could be a good modifications for council's process. And so yeah, I've started thinking like apply Orec mechanism, but do it in snapshot. And you model it using two polls, so one poll for voting stage and one poll for veto stage. And yeah, if first of all, voting stage is passed if more than 2/3 of all voting stake of all voting stake is voting yes, as opposed to no. And in a veto stage, only no votes are accepted. And if that poll receives more than 2/3 of all yes votes uh, in voting stage, then it's vetoed, then it's rejected. Otherwise, it's passed. Yeah, so that would avoid the issue which I mentioned, where proposals can be passed like without part of a community noticing, because well, you still would depend on notifications, but that would be like uh, clear like alarm if a proposal passes voting stage, and it then would be fairly easy to block it in the veto stage if community is against it. And then I think we could even avoid having registration, council registration.
All right. Very interesting. Thank you, Tadas. Maybe we had a great breakthrough here. Rosemarie said, thanks all for the great meeting. Have a great weekend ahead. Thank you, Rosemarie. Hope you have a great weekend ahead too. Really appreciate you being here. Big heart for you. And have a wonderful weekend. And curious to hear if anybody has any feedback on this Orpolls idea. I also pulled it up on um, the screen now too, so you can see what Tadas had shared in the chat. So Orpolls OREC, which is the optimistic respect-based executive contract, but for legislative branch. So just to summarize that, the first step would be to create a poll for a voting stage. And then the second step would be if more than 2/3 are voting yes, then proposal goes into a veto stage. And then the third step is create a poll veto stage where there's only no votes allowed. And then the fourth stage would be if a veto proposal gathers at least 1/3 of all yes votes, then proposal is canceled. Otherwise, proposal is passed. So I have to kind of like I see Rosemary says she likes or Paul's proposal. Feel free, Rosemary, if you want to speak to that more before you go. I'm curious to hear because I'm still kind of like I was partially focused on just trying to pull up the Orpolls page and put this in one pace, so I have to like kind of think it over a bit more to fully digest and stuff like that. But I appreciate Tadas, do you think that this is like is it? Did we figure it out? Is Orpolls back? Orpolls is back, baby. Or do we have to think about it more? Is it kind of like a maybe it's good? Or I'm curious to hear what your thoughts about how much conviction you have on this, and as well as Rosmari and Zal their time.
Right now, I don't see any issues, but like I remember I was thinking of Orpolls, but slightly different mechanism, and I think there was another document which I made, uh, but I cannot find it. But anyway, like right now, I don't see any issues with it.
And so the poll for the voting stage, so like how long would these time frames be? So is it between like bi-weekly events? That means it takes a month to pass a proposal because you kind of have like a like or like I don't know, is it set up like ORDAO where it's like 3 days each? Would this still be where people are making decisions during the event? I guess not. And then like yeah, I'm curious. And so this uses snapshot, I guess. And you could set it so it's like 3 days to vote and then 3 days to veto, and then it would take like 1 week to approve it, just like ORDAO basically. Is that right? Or
I would maybe use, I don't know, if that's something we can figure it out and change it later if you want. For now, maybe I'm thinking that maybe week to for voting stage and a week for veto stage.
hmm
That way, like you couldn't pass a lot of proposals in between meetings. Uh, so it would be like to pass one full proposal, you would need a full 2 weeks. Uh, but I'm open to other ideas too.
Okay. Well, yeah, a 2 week thing could work well. Although like I wonder I guess if the proposal would be deemed approved, because it would be really nice to have that in-person meeting after the respec game, if like it's not too resource intensive, basically, where we can discuss these proposals or at least give updates about them. But I guess we could just do it during the respec game. I don't know. We are over time, so I can think this over. If you want anything else to DOS, then feel free. I'm happy to hear it, and I'm excited about this potential new consensus process. So thanks for sharing that. I see Time wrote think it should also include something, but I don't know what you mean by that. That's not very specific time if you want to unmute or oh okay, I see now he's writing. Like percentage of people and voting or something for accuracy in value of weight for the it looks like maybe that's still an incomplete sentence, but
Yeah,
curious.
but yeah, it should include the minimum threshold parameter. Uh,
Yeah.
so like yes, it's probably not complete, but
hmm
uh, it's basically I think the basic idea could work if we elaborate a bit.
hmm Yeah, great point, Time. Thanks for adding that. And I suppose we could look at optimistics.io/ORDAO or slash OREC is actually where I had copied and pasted what Tadas wrote for in the GitHub page. You can find the original in the GitHub. But this is just an easy way to remember where he has the specifications of OREC where there's variables for voting period, proposal weight threshold, veto period, respect contract. So I guess we could have a proposal weight threshold, like you're talking about, or even like a percentage of people, if that's easier than the weighting and voting. But we might want to take inspiration from the OREC specifications and apply that to the Orpolls design. That's a good point. But yeah, I think there's a lot of potential in this though, so I'm curious. I suppose we can discuss it more now, and I'm curious if anyone has any more thoughts, or we could perhaps also just think it over and share other messages about this in the chat, and we can have it maybe fully decided if it becomes something we really like by the next event, and that would be really great if we go into it. I mean, we could also say that the um, Epoch 2 doesn't start until the second event of the season, which is on our anniversary. So if we do want to take longer designing this and we don't need to do it just in the next 2 weeks, we could do it after the first event, in which we have lots of time to design it. But it would be really good to get this designed so we can start implementing it soon. But this has been good progress. Tadas, do you have any other thoughts or or time is all. Any other thoughts on Orpolls' idea, uh, or any other of the topics we've discussed regarding the consensus process?
No, I think it's worth having some time to think about. And yeah, it'd be good to prepare something for the next meeting.
Okay. Um, Sounds good. I agree. I see Zal said interesting meeting. Glad I could pop in. Glad you could pop in too, Zal. Thanks so much for being here and sharing your thoughts. And Time said it's great to be here. I'm not understanding as much, but I'm learning more. Thank you for all this and also appreciate everyone. Thanks, Time. Really appreciate you being here and learning with us and helping to chip in with the idea too. That's like a pretty great contribution there. So I'm glad you're appreciating it, enjoying it, and really appreciate you being here too. And I appreciate your message. Okay, so yeah, we can think over the Orpole stuff. I would love maybe Tadasi, if you just have like another minute or two, we can wrap it up now if you want, or in like 2 minutes. But I would love if you just we didn't get a chance to really I didn't get any feedback, I don't think, on the idea of doing the respect game. And I don't think you mentioned any feedback in the chat. So I'd just like to just real quick before we wrap up, just share that one more time and see if anybody has any feedback about start playing the respect game with the target and prompt for what to do to grow the fractal ecosystem. Do you have any feedback or thoughts on that before we go, or?
Mm, I don't know. Like I previously we talked about it, and I expressed like one concern about the similarity of a prompt in Eden Fractal versus Optimism Fractal. But but on the other hand, like if you want to restart Eden Fractal, like I don't know what's the best way, what's a better way to start distributing respect. Uh, I mean, if you want to restart on-chain part of Eden Fractal. So I don't know. I like I maybe it's not a bad idea.
Okay, sounds good. Well, yeah, I appreciate your thoughts about that over the break. I see time's I gotta go. Thanks, Time. Have a great day. Um, Zal, if you have any feedback or Time or anybody watching, then you're very welcome to share here in the next event or in the Telegram chat. And yeah, I'll just briefly say I previously came up with several different, as I said before, if you go to this Notion page, I came up with like 4 or 5 different options. So, but I'm pretty confident with this one now, more confident than ever about it. I had a new game prompt over here, and there's a bunch of research here, and one of them was like, what do you do to help people enjoy the respect game, benefit from respect, or improve human coordination? I came up with all these different options. How do you make collective decision making more fair, fast, and fun? I settled on this one for a while. How did you help enhance governance, improve coordination, or foster public goods? Actually, that's not quite the one. I had one about what do you do to advance governance, coordination, or public goods, governance, coordination, or something else. I had one that I really liked there. And then I also did research here on with I think ChatGPT, and I copied it here about like how these might be beneficial in different ways. And then there's also another one where I did Cagendas instead. But now I think that the general idea to DOS, and for anybody, for Zal and anybody else who's watching too, but I think that this idea with the Fractal Fellowship and Fractal Development Fund, I think that it needs work, like to get it to work in the right way. But having it where we measure contributions to the fractal ecosystem, I think is what the fractal ecosystem needs, because we need to use our tools, the respect game, to grow the fractal ecosystem, and we can use that to test out the ability to fund that and measure contributions to it and get more people and inspire people to help more and reward them for helping more for the fractal ecosystem. So to me, it seems like a perfect prompt and way to play the respect game. And it's similar to optimism, but it's also different because it's not focused on specifically helping optimism. You can grow the fractal ecosystem in any chain or network. Obviously, helping on optimism is a great way to contribute to both optimism fractal and Eden fractal. But I think it's sufficiently different, and the fact that they're bi-weekly means that each week you get to play a respect game and contribute something. I see Tadas seemed you got inspired at some point there. Did you have any comments you wanted to share on any of that, or?
Yeah, so my initial response is basically about the idea of playing the respect game bi-weekly. And yeah, having thought more about it just now, I think we have to start doing it because a lot of people who participated in Epoch 1 are not participating anymore. And I like your idea to use new respect distribution composed of people who are participating now to create a new, to use consensus process, to have consensus process use that. I think that's the right thing to do, but we do need to start creating a new respect distribution. So yeah, if, that part about playing a respect game in every meeting, I like. This part regarding the specific prompt, how is your prompt different from what did you do this week uh, to further the mission of Eden Fractal or something like that? Basically, something where you would be asking, what did you do this week towards the mission of Eden Fractal, which we have already.
That's a good question. So the mission, if you go to edenfractal.com/mission, or the homepage is also there too, but the mission is to implement fractal decision-making process throughout society via collaborative research, development, education, gamification, community engagement. Um, so mine's pretty similar to that. It's a bit shorter, and I think it's a bit more maybe poetic a little bit. And it's similar to Optimism Fractal, where it's with Optimism, it's what you do to grow optimism, and with Eden Fractal, it's what you do to grow fractal ecosystem, to grow fractals, basically. So it's a little bit easier to say. Like, I really love this mission. I'm really grateful that we came up with it. But I think it's not ideal for some purposes in that one, a lot of people don't understand what fractal decision-making processes are, so it might be difficult to attract new people. People also don't understand what the fractal ecosystem is either. But I feel like fractal ecosystem is maybe a little bit easier to convey than fractal decision-making processes. And then I totally love this collaborative research, development, education, gamification, community engagement. Thanks for the applause, Zal. But it's just kind of a mouthful, like to say. Because then people join and it's like, what do you do to contribute to the mission? And then people have to remember the whole mission to be able to say it. I say like growing the fractal ecosystem. It's a bit poetic because it's like growing the fractal ecosystem, and it basically means the same thing, but I don't know. I feel like it's just like a bit easier. Like for example, Zal, if Zal joins the Respect Games, then he could say, you know, I'm contributing to the mission to implement fractal decision-making process throughout society via collaborative research, development, education, gamification, community engagement by hosting the Zal Fractal and you know doing these other things and making the Zal year Zal posts and stuff like that. Or you could say I'm growing the fractal ecosystem by hosting the Zal Fractal and making the year Zal posts and stuff like that. So just like a little bit easier to say it, and that's also one of the reasons why I have been proposing these core intents here too, because I think either way, whether you have fractal ecosystem or fractal decision-making processes, um, the core intents, like one of the intentions I have with this, and obviously we can get this later, and I know that you shared some good comments, so I'm not doing that and trying to do too much, but the core intents like more so grounded in like actual products and experiences that people can more easily fathom and understand and are more tangible, even if they don't know about fractal decision-making process and fractal ecosystem. So if we have someone on the website like we're aiming to increase the respect game engagement and the utilization of the respect token and help everybody become more independent. That's like, you know, kind of like some core intents of the fractal ecosystem. Then it makes it more like practical and tangible about what people can actually do to contribute to the fractal ecosystem and like what we're mostly trying to do. But that being said, I'm open to just, you know, like you said, we could just say, what do you do to contribute to the mission of Eden Fractal? And maybe you could do it shorter than I did. You don't have to say, I contributed to implementing fractal decision-making process by doing yada, yada, yada. You could just say, I helped Eden Fractal's mission by doing this. And maybe that is a shorter way. Maybe that is the best way to do it because we already have a firmly established mission. But that's my thoughts there.
Yeah, so you uh, basically, I think your arguments against the prompt that is targeted towards the mission is simply the criticism of our mission, that it could be clearer maybe, but uh, yeah, I'm kind of, for me, it seems like it's always better for the prompt to be the same as the mission, or I mean, for prompt to refer to mission. I think, yeah, generally, like, it's simpler, and when the prompt can stay the same and we can change the mission to adjust. Uh, but I do see how like, what did you do this week to advance fractal ecosystem or something like that? How that's simpler, although still it only makes sense to people who know what the fractal ecosystem is. So you have the same problem as with mission. Uh, and I don't know if we really need to like have only one prompt, like, and like we could use both based on what makes sense in the moment. Because for me, those meaning of those two uh, missions, or meaning of those two prompts are virtually the same. Uh, and any contribution that is made towards any of these prompts, like, would be aligned anyway. So I don't know if we need to be strict. Maybe it can be the official prompt could have or combining both, or I don't know.
Yeah, good points. I think also it should be up to like the council to change it. Like that's what we've done before with Eden with Optimism. In fact, we changed it from help optimism to grow optimism. That's like a small change we made, and we also made it over the past 2 weeks instead of the past week. So I think the council could determine that in either case. But I think having like a simple mission is good, and I think avoiding what you do to do this or that, it's good if we're able to do it. Like basically, the simpler the better, I think. As long as it can accomplish our goals, like there's a lot of benefit in just explaining it simple for people so they know exactly how they can contribute and stuff like that. And it's easy for people to remember when they're in the meeting and explaining it to a new person and stuff like that. I think there's a lot of benefit in that simplicity. And then um, also to briefly respond to what your other point, I didn't mean to be critical of our mission because I think our mission is really perfect. But I think it's just like like we're introducing. Maybe it could be improved, but I really love our mission that we defined here. I think it's really elegant, but it just like it's kind of like you said, and I was saying like we're working with a new thing that most people don't know about. And I think that this is an excellent mission for people who understand what we're working on, at least to some extent, because it really explains it in detail. And like, I don't know how I would improve this, but it's kind of like we need like an internal mission for people who get it, and like an external mission for people who don't get it yet. And that's kind of what I was introducing, what I was trying to introduce with so I could see the benefit in having the same mission as the game prompt. But on the other hand, I could see benefit in saying, okay, this is kind of like the internal mission that we could still explain at every meeting, but it'll take some time for people to really understand what it means, probably with factual decision-making processes. But if we have it where like the game prompt is kind of more like externally focused on both, it works totally well for people who are pros in the fractal ecosystem and know all about it, but it also is more guided for people who are new, and that's why I just think that grow the fractal ecosystem combined with if we do include something like that, like the core intents to say respect game and respect, then it makes it like very clear. Okay, that's how I contribute to fractal decision making processes. That's how I attract to them. That's how I help the mission. Basically, I grow the fractal ecosystem by helping to promote the respect game and helping to build, respect game and tools and stuff like that. Um, and Tadas writes, but mission should be clear to people who do not know our organization. I think our vision is clear to people who don't know our organization. We believe that all communities and organizations have the tools and methods to make the best possible decision making, fair, fast, and fun. So that, like, I think that the 1-2 punch of those two things is kind of like the vision explains it at the broadest level possible that everybody understands, and the mission narrows down on that with things that everybody gets except for this fractal decision-making processes. And then that's why I added the section about what are fractal decision-making processes there. And I imagine
Yes,
there could be like a core intent in there that further focuses it.
but in your prompt, the fractal decision-making processes is replaced by fractal ecosystem, which does not say mean anything for a person who is new to fractal ecosystem.
Yeah, which is why I had the core intents about the respect game. And previously I had the game prompt as what you do to like help grow the respect game. So I'm also open to that too, just have it where what you do to help implement the respect game, but that's also different from the mission to some extent, whereas fractal ecosystem is closer. And I think the prompt that I had, it has two differences. One, it summarizes via collaborative research. It summarizes implementing throughout society via collaborative research, development, education, gamification, community engagement to just the word grow. And then it summarizes like all fractal decision-making processes and the people who are doing that into fractal ecosystem, basically.
Yeah, but you still have a fractal ecosystem, and you're not proposing core intents yet, right? Or
I think so. I don't know if it's core intents or intents. I didn't formally propose it, but it's in this proposal. Just that yeah, I wrote core intents. So and this is what
yeah,
I've been feeling like pretty strongly about these first two ones for the past like 4 or 5 or 6 months now. That we should focus on increasing respect game engagement and respect token utilization because I think that those are like the two like key tangible practical like product kind of things that people can help do that are very clear to people that do help the fractal ecosystem and help achieve our mission. And then this last one about increasing community independence, I was just reading the original Eden on EOS paper, like website edenoneos.com, and it's all about maximizing community independence. It was previously fostering collaboration, and then and then I came up with the idea of increasing funding for the fractal ecosystem. And I like all that stuff, but I just thought that maximizing independence is like really core to the idea of Eden, and it kind of it's nice because it's both helping as much the respect game and respect token as well as everybody who's in the community. So that's why I like that.
yeah, but it's not part of a prompt. So people, how it is, how are core intents connected to the prompt to make it contributions more specific?
I was thinking about also like in preparation for Epoch 2, like basically reworking the website a little bit. So right now it starts with the vision and the mission, which I don't know if that's ideal to start with it like this. Like we might want to get more to like what you can do with it. Like for example, at Optimism Fractal, we have like the events first and foremost and the respect game first and foremost and stuff like that. So I was thinking we could potentially move the vision and mission like a little bit around and then have another section for the core intents. I really like this picture that I made a while ago about the fractal ecosystem. So I was thinking of adding that somewhere, and then like maybe just basically writing it. And then every time when I'm hosting an event in the beginning of it, or when people just like look at the website, then the website will kind of like logically, it starts with the vision. Maybe I think maybe like it first starts with like it just. I don't think it'd be that different because I think it would like start with this kind of like general overview, and then there'd be the vision, which something that makes sense to everybody, and then the mission narrows it down with fractal decision-making processes, and then after that, maybe it has like, I don't know, maybe it probably gets the events sooner, and it says how you can play the respect game at events to earn respect and get all the benefits of that. And then it says like grow the fractal ecosystem. It's like how do you grow the fractal ecosystem? And then it says the core intents or something like that. And then it says like you grow the fractal ecosystem by, participating in our events as well as other fractal events. And generally, like the best way to do that is the main like kind of product or main game that helps to grow the fractal ecosystem and helps implement fractal decision-making processes is the respect game and the respect token. So it'd be something like that, basically, like basically conveying that on the website and the homepage, and then repeating it at our events and putting it in a sequence that makes sense logically from something that makes sense with a vision to more specifically the mission to very much more specifically the game prompt and the core intents. That's my vision for it anyway, but maybe it could be more clear and simple.
Okay, so yeah, I'm against core intents idea. Uh, I don't like it, and I don't like the idea of passing it as a package. Uh, we need more democratic like deliberation to come up with something like that, and I don't think like you can pick only three of them, and maybe something like respect trees or something. Anyway, either way, we still need in the initial version we cannot have that because I think we need a consensus process to pass something like core intents. So I don't think that it would be right to have core intents set for Epoch for the start of Epoch 2.
Yeah. So I agree that I think that getting the consensus process set up is the first step, and then the core intents could be proposed and ratified, I suppose, by the consensus process if the council likes them. the idea is pretty similar to the Optimism Fractal 2. Like that's how we did it. We came up with three core intents dedicated to fostering collaboration, awarding public goods creation, and optimizing governance in the super chain. And we came up with that at the beginning of of Optimism Fractal. You came up with fostering collaboration, awarding public goods creators, and then I later added optimizing governance on the super chain via proposal of the council.
Yeah,
So
so for me, that's just a mission, one mission. But yeah,
okay, well, we never called this a mission. We called it intense. And then
I always called it a mission.
I don't think so. I don't think you ever did.
I did when I was proposing an intent document. The beginning of intent document was in my mind what it was always a mission.
Maybe I missed it, but I'd be curious to see that because I later called them core intents and I wrote them here because I'm like I'm pretty sure these are core intents, but I was
I
almost positive that you called them intents. So I'm like, how does Fractal do
I
have a
now
mission?
no, I called it intent document.
Yeah.
I used that concept. I never used the concept of core intent.
Yeah, well, basically we had intents, and then we just had like this top thing that was like these two or three things that we're doing. So like, I guess these are the core intents. I can change that to the mission if it'd be clearer. But to my understanding, Optimism Fractal never had a firm mission. It just had intents basically. And then I think I just took the liberty to add the word core in front of it just to make it stick out from just the intent document basically. But I'm happy to change that if you think it's better. And I'd be curious to see that original document where I guess I just overlooked where you wrote mission, but I don't remember seeing that at all.
Well, but regarding how we present intent document, I never liked it. Like I think it should be different. Um,
Sorry,
but
Tadas, I'm bringing up a lot of things you don't like here.
well, what?
I just said sorry. I'm bringing up a lot of things you don't like here now. But
No, but
happy to change or give feedback
because
or
we touched on it right now. I think in the initial version, I expressed some of the things I didn't like, but then yeah, I did not have time to like really talk about it. So just I don't know, since we are talking about this topic, I wanted to mention that, but uh,
okay. Well, maybe it's an opportunity. When we do Eden Fractal Epoch 2, I think it'd be good to have an intent document for that as well, similar to how you did for ORDAO, where we can just explain it similar to this. So maybe we can take the opportunity where you can design it as you see as a better way to design it, and then we can compare that with this, and then we can potentially update the Optimism Fractal intent document based on that, but then I can get a better idea. We won't have to talk about it, but maybe if you want to do that or if you want to collaborate on it, then that might be a good way to try like a different version of it. Um, I think that's a good idea.
yeah. Well, to start it, like this is good enough. Like it works, but yes, just something to that I think we can improve in my mind at least. But uh,
Okay, sounds good. Well, it's good enough for me too. And then, yeah, a lot of this stuff it's just been put together when I have the time. And I appreciate just very much you setting up all these specifications. So I look forward to doing a similar thing for Eden Fractal and figuring out what we'll do. It's been a wonderful event so far. Is there anything else we want to say, or should we wrap it up now?
yeah, and I appreciate you putting this together. I know I think our conflict is because you look at how to present it to people in the most like inviting and clear way, and I'm looking at like clarity. For me, you have to separate specification from like this presentation part, and so we have different perspectives, and that's why we disagree here. But yeah, I think we need we need your perspective as well. So uh, thanks.
Thanks, Adas. And that goes back to what we were talking about yesterday too, with regards to the um, the picture with the captains. So Rosmari made this picture where I was like, we should do captains. And then I thought your comment was pretty funny. The demand, to be clear, is mostly from me right now. We need to, just like you were saying, like I need a way to like basically illustrate it. And I think all games prove that. Like you have to have the underlying engine of how it works, like the infrastructure, but you need to have like the lore and like the visuals and everything like that. So I think that, like that should be a good balance of that. Also regarding the intents, that is I think part of that reason too was not just that I wanted to make it look nice, but also just that I think there was some specific issue. I remember like we went back and forth. If we actually looked at the Notion page, I could probably pull it up if it's worth it. But I remember we went back and forth and like shared some like pretty detailed comments, and I think you never responded to my last comment. But there was like an issue. We're using Notion in the back end, and there was like an issue with sync blocks, something like that. So there's like a technical reason. If yeah, so that's another thing. So we could return to that if we want to at some point. But it wasn't just to try to make it look nice. It was like there was an issue with the website basically that I was trying to overcome. So yeah, thanks so much, Zal. You guys are killing it. Love it and being here. Thanks so much, Zal, for being here with us and listening and sharing your thoughts earlier and all the work you're doing. I love to see the Zal Fractal white paper too, or rather the Zal white paper too, and love to see all the progress you're making with Zal Fractal. So you're killing it too, and thanks so much for everything that you're doing. Tadas, you have any other comments on this intents and everything else, or anything else we discussed, or should we wrap it up here?
No, I think we can wrap it up.
Or okay, cool. Well, thanks so much, Tadas, for all the feedback. I love the critical feedback as well as the new ideas with Orpolls and everything like that. And thanks so much. Great to see you all. Maybe I'll turn off this screen share so we can see each other. But before I do that, maybe I'll just say thanks all for joining. We're gonna have our second to last. We're gonna have our last event of the season for the Optimism Fractal and Eden Fractal 2 coming up. So check out the Optimistics event calendar. The last event of the season will be Eden Fractal or Optimism Fractal will happen on April 3rd. And the last event of the season for Eden Fractal will happen on April 10th. And then for both of them, I think we'll be back in the next month. But yeah, stay tuned in the chat for more details and watch the videos and stuff like that. Thanks everybody for being here with us and looking forward to seeing you at the next events and looking forward to hearing your comments in Telegram and Discord throughout. All right, Tadash, should we end it with like 3, 2, 1, go Eden Fractal or something like that? Or
Mm, Okay.
okay.
I was thinking of maybe go captains or something, but
I'm up for go captains. If you're coming around to the captains, I'll go for it.
no,
No.
no.
All right. Well, we'll have to win you over the captains. I think you like the sages back in the day when I introduced that, so I have to figure out some way to weave it in there nicely. But I agree. We can first focus on the protocol and the stuff, and then we can introduce the branding stuff later and figure out a way to make it work nicely.
Well, if we make a small change, you can call it captain. But
What's this? What's the small change? Oh, just a way that it works differently?
yeah, like making decisions during the meetings.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That way it can serve as a name for the protocol change too. Okay, I see what you're doing. Yeah, I like that. Sounds like it could work. Now we have to make a change. Yeah, Orpolls isn't that great of a name either. So I mean, it's okay name. It's pretty funny, but maybe we can improve that too. Maybe that can be Or Captains or something.
But it carries meaning,
It does carry meaning. Yeah,
and captains is just like what?
just
It's a
great.
children's game or something. What?
Yeah. Ever since we started calling it delegates in the e-bus facto process, I was like, they should be called captains. Captains is more fun, it's more interesting, it's more sports-like. It's more like delegates is like it's like all like official and stuff. Captains is like it's like a sports team as well as a captain of a ship, and we have the whole like ship metaphor and the ocean everywhere. So it's like navigating. So anyway, I'm not attached to it too much, but I like captains. But yeah, maybe Orpolls is more meaningful. The Orpoll captains deal. All right. So we'll wrap it up with 3, 2, 1, go Ian Fractal then I suppose.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, cool. Also, I know we've been on a really long call, but if you do want to stick around a minute afterwards, we can talk about something privately, but we can talk about that later too. But anyway, 3, 2, 1, and go
Oh,
Eden
Eden
Fractal
Fractal.
and the Orpol and the captains. See you, everybody. Thanks all.
Yeah.